Hello out there, it's Ryan Catherwood coming to you live from the grounds of the University of Virginia. Great to be back on Advancement Live for a really good show today featuring a friend and colleague, Mr. Michael Sgro up at SUNY Cortland. I'll introduce to you more Michael in a second and talk a little bit about his background. Coming to you on this wonderful Tuesday afternoon in the world, Advancement Live is a bi-monthly show. My colleague and I, Andrew Gosen, up at Cornell University, tried to put a great broadcast together featuring some of the alumni affairs, development, communications related professionals, and what they're working on in the current alumni relations space. Advancement Live is part of the HigherEdLive network, a series of professional development web shows and podcasts. Be sure to go to HigherEdLive.com and go ahead and subscribe to the newsletter, which you can have delivered right to your email inbox. Go ahead and go to iTunes, and you can check out the podcast. Have them have podcasts of the HigherEdLive suite of shows downloaded right to your phone. Advancement Live would not be what it is without the help of our wonderful sponsors. iModules is a great sponsor of Advancement Live. And how do you focus your engagement efforts where it will have the most impact? Actionable insights from iModules reveals who is, who isn't, and who could be engaged online with your institution. I had the chance to check out the Actionable Insights platform when I was at the Sizzler conference over the summer, and it is definitely a really great tool to check out. mStoner, HigherEdLive is produced by our friends at mStoner, a marketing and communications firm that works with educational institutions on branding, strategy, web design, and more. Check out mStoner's latest groundbreaking book, Follow the Leader, authored by Dan Zians. I butchered that name. I'm sorry, Dan. I should have read that in advance. And edited by Michael Stoner. Filled with insights, anecdotes, and profiles of leaders who have successfully used social media in their roles as college and university presidents. The book offers sound advice to novices and experts alike, and for those who advise them. We're tweeting out a link now, which I just did, had it scheduled up for you guys so you can learn more about Follow the Leader. Okay, coming back to Mr. Michael Sgro. Michael is the Executive Director of Alumni Relations, Alumni Engagement, I should say, at SUNY Cortland, and he is also founder and community manager of Alumni Trending. If you guys haven't had a chance to check out Alumni Trending, I definitely recommend going to alumnitrending.com. Michael has over 18 years of community building experience, including digital strategies. Michael, my friend, it is wonderful to have you on the program today.
Greetings. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Before we head into the questions, I was just going to show this beautiful screen share of Alumni Trending, which has a wonderful celebratory theme on the front. Featuring the fact that 3 years old Alumni Trending is at this point. This is a great way to connect with other people in the alumni space. So, Michael, what's going on up at SUNY Cortland this day?
Well, it's a little balmy, and there's snow on the ground, but we're excited to launch our next semester Monday. So students are just trickling back to campus and getting things started. So, and alums, of course, never take a break. So we are always around to help engage and attract their interest. So
I think that this is one of the more fun times of year after a fall semester to come back rejuvenated and get those things that didn't quite get done at the end of the fall semester re-going at the beginning of the spring semester. Michael, I wanted to talk a little bit today about a very important topic in the realm of alumni relations, the idea of alum before day one, right? So thinking about the engagement life cycle and the fact that there are opportunities to engage not just current students, but of course prospective students all the way through graduation and beyond. Can you talk a little bit about what sort of work you guys do at SUNY Cortland to engage prospective students before they apply or enroll, and how the alumni network is set up to help those folks?
Yeah, I think one of the things that SUNY Cortland did a number of years ago, even before I started, was to start paying attention to this issue and realize what the Alumni Association can do to help. to make sure that we're building relationships with folks even before they start classes. And the Alumni Association a number of years ago put together what they called the Alum From Day One committee. It is a committee part of our alumni board, which is resourced like all of our committees, both financially with volunteers and programs. And so we're constantly renewing these programs and thinking about what's going to fit today and what our students need today. But we were out front of this for quite some time because we want to make sure that people come to the college, certainly enjoy their experience, and then be wonderful alumni volunteers. So that committee really it provides us the home base for all of our initiatives. To talk about some of those things, one is we have a lot of alums, obviously, who send their children to our institution, so keeping our alums up to date as to the strength of our programs and the things that we're doing certainly couldn't hurt because, you know, in this day and age, parents are certainly part of the decision-making process of where students are going. So making sure that we provide information to our graduates, to their potential students is huge. We also have a very active orientation program where the Alumni Association partners with those students who decide to attend SUNY Cortland, and we provide not only just information but with literal ways to get involved starting that day. Joining the Student Alumni Association is one of those things. Accessing the Alumni House, which is a wonderful, wonderful asset for the college. Getting involved in club activities from the onset and how those club activities relate back to bringing back speakers who are alumni. So we're constantly finding ways to kind of penetrate the student market with opportunities to work with our office and our alumni house. One of the things I started doing this past year, again, when the students do land and they go through the academic convocation experience, I also am the last speaker. So I'm separating them from the beginning of their first year at college, and one of my messages is talking about our larger community and that they are alums from the very first day that they start school. So we really annex them in terms of making them feel part of the community from the very beginning, whether that's the message they get from their alum parents when they're thinking about applying, when they come to visit us for orientation, and when they land, we reinforce that message that they are alums from day one, and they should be accessing the wonderful benefits that we have for our students. And joining the Student Alumni Association is one, to get involved in keeping the Cortland traditions alive. Our Student Alumni Association helps with all those kind of campus activities. So those are just some of the things that we do. And one that I'll mention that's a digital practice that we started doing this past year was also retweeting and following those folks who've been accepted to the college. A lot of students will go on Twitter and say, I've just been accepted to SUNY Cortland, it's the best day ever. We'll retweet that and start following them from the very beginning so that we show them that, one, that we care, and one, that we consider them part of our group. So that's one specific digital strategy that we started, and we're seeing great success, particularly from the other alumni who then comment and say, oh my gosh, the class of 2019, I'm so old, or whatever sort of conversation kind of ensues. It's kind of an engagement effort in both directions.
I think it's a wonderful idea. And, you know, to complement some of the things that you guys are doing there, you know, we at the University of Virginia are, like I'm sure you guys do, have accepted student parties, right? So after students have been admitted to the university, you have a great opportunity to use the alumni network and its strong volunteers to, you know, work with students as far as, you know, making the sales pitch, right? I mean, why SUNY Cortland? Why the University of Virginia? Try to get the best and brightest. And I think that, you know, there's a really great opportunity as well to not just have events featuring alumni who, you know, are working to interact with the students and talk up the culture and the opportunities that exist at the university, but also picking up the phone, right, and working with, you know, the admissions office on a call script, the opportunity to engage with students right after they've received their acceptance letters in the mail. There's a good opportunity that exists there.
That's right.
Yeah.
One other thing I should have mentioned in that list of things, our Alumni Association also has what we call our Alumni Admit program, which is gearing up actually in 3 weeks, where our Alumni Association admits, alongside with the admissions office, obviously, 5 to 8 students every year. And these students are considered our pride and joy. They're the people who encapsulate the excitement, the enthusiasm, and it's our hope that these students join us while during their time to help keep Cortland traditions alive and be part of that extended volunteer family in our area. So it is a unique situation where we have that partnership with our admissions office, and every year we bring in that group, and it's a terrific program. And in addition to what you mentioned earlier about the activities during the summer before school starts, we also find ways that we honor legacies. And so as students are coming in, we want to acknowledge that they have a long-lasting history of perhaps their parents, perhaps their grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, and making sure that we acknowledge that. And those sort of relationships are strengthened, certainly, by the fact that we recognize that.
Yeah. And, thinking about the university experience, when I look back on when I arrived at the University of Richmond 15 years ago, thinking about those 4-year period of time, I mean, that goes by so fast. I mean, the experience as an undergraduate is a really wonderful one, but it's short. And how do you communicate, Michael, the message that the student experience is so short, and sort of explain the idea that they are alumni as soon as they've enrolled in the university, to be thinking about part of that broader network, not just those 4 years, but beyond.
Right. I think our successes stem from the fact that we're consistent. Right, so from the first day that they begin, even prior to that, whether it's on Twitter, at one of those meetup parties, at the academic convocation, our message is short, which is you're an alum from day one, and we see you as part of our family immediately, but we're consistent. So wherever there's a milestone college activity or an event, we're part of it, right? And so some of that stems from the fact that we spent many years building campus partnerships and making sure that as there's major college activity that involve our students, that we're part of it in some way, whether we're a sponsor for the activity, whether we're helping include alumni in that activity, and then spotlighting the fact that our community is much more than just what's on campus, but for all those people who are part of our alum community. So I think our success comes from the fact that we're consistent, and then working through all the various pieces of involvement that we have, whether that's through the Student Alumni Association. We hire about 10 student interns every semester for both our alumni house and our office. We have work study students, about 5 of those every semester. We partner with student leaders to make sure that if they have need, whether it's an alumni speaker or a reunion of their group, that we're there. And I think the piece of that I'll just stress is the consistency. So every kind of opportunity or window that we have to kind of educate the campus or our students, we're there. And we're also participating in the life of the college. So activities that are student-focused, we tend to have a role or show up and be part of it so that we can start building those relationships with students. So I think in general I'd say that it's best to be consistent in making sure that you have a concise message in terms of the student involvement. And I think that if you ask anyone on my campus about my involvement, that people will maybe not necessarily invite me, but I'll show up to be part of it. But what's behind that is the need to make sure that our message is out there, and that consistency, the 4 or 5 years that a student is there, that they know that there's an alumni association, and we're going to keep these ties alive and well after graduation.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I was just looking before the show at, you are the Red Dragons, right? And I think you have a very cool website that I wanted to show as we're chatting along here. Here is the Join the Red Dragon Network homepage. A really great interactive experience here for SUNY Cortland on their alumni pages. Michael, when someone asks you, what makes SUNY Cortland special, what does it mean to be part of the Red Dragon Network? What's the sales pitch? What are you telling folks?
Well, I'll tell you, I've worked at 5 college campuses now, including my alma mater, and what I find to be true about SUNY Cortland is that there's a very high sense of pride in our institution. It could be something to do with the fact that we do a lot of things as teams. Our athletic program is very strong, but there is a high sense of pride. And to be able to harness some of that in a network like this, where we can create basically that alumni experience in a virtual way, is something that we're proud of and trying to increase in terms of the not only just web traffic but of meaningful experiences. Alums are thirsting for information, right? And the key to empowerment is sharing information. And so we find that we put together some best practices in using the iModules tools that we have in order to make the case for that. And I think just the sense of pride is amazing, and we try to harness that every day, whether that's a retweet of something wonderful that we see online, to sharing the photo of one of the most recent events, or a photo alum might have sent in of a gathering in Alaska of their 4 college roommates, and they sort of take that pride wherever they are, and the fact that they took that photo in itself is a showcase of pride, right? So those are the sort of things that we're hoping to really maximize in this online space, but also bring people out into the real-time activities that we have.
Yeah, and I think students are looking for those types of experiences during the course of their 4 years, and I think particularly while they're while they're back at home, right? There are probably more opportunities to engage in the alumni network than there are when they're on campus. But that's not entirely the case as far as what you guys are doing at SUNY Cortland. You guys actually have a student alumni association, which is a group of folks that are there to get people involved, promote the traditions of the university. Here we have some student groups leaders, but we don't really have a student alumni association. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so our Student Alumni Association is a collection of students who are volunteers, who are an official student club, so they work with the student government to get their funding, and sort of the same thing as every other club, but they have a very strong affiliation, obviously, with the Alumni Association. That affiliation includes the sitting on of committees of the alumni board, so each of our students who are in the Student Alumni Association as leaders are offered to sit on the board of directors, as well as be involved in the committees. So when we're talking about student relationships and things that we're trying to do, our Student Alumni Association is not only they themselves students, but they're also hearing from their friends the things that they think students need and bringing those directly in conversation with us in the Alumni Association in order to make sure that we're doing what we think is going to be successful. It's a great service to us that we can get real-time information from students before launching a big program that they might not feel is a benefit. And the club itself really does help support that in terms of that information sharing, as well as putting on our campus traditions. We have a long-standing tradition of what we call the Senior Send-Off, which is an activity that's hosted at our Parks Alumni House. And last year we had 600 students attend, and they pulled that all together as the send-off for our folks who are going out after graduation. And then one of the other things they help us work with is our Red Dragon Pride Day, which kicks off the fall semester, which is a connection with College Colors Day. And that's been a terrific activity for us too. You might notice there's some photos on our webpage where, incidentally, I was in the front of the photo. Not intended, of course, just sort of happened. But these are sort of, again, going back to that pride and spirit. There is such strong pride and spirit that our students help us in performing these activities and encourage their friends to be participant, which again speak to the larger sense of pride. I'll give you another quick small program that we do as well. A colleague in the annual fund with myself will take one of our scooters, one of those, I forget what they're called, they're golf carts. There you go. We'll take one of those golf carts and actually bring candy across campus and offer candy to students who are wearing Cortland gear as a way to say thank you for wearing the stuff while you're actually at school. And I'll tell you, we run out of candy every time we do it because everyone is wearing the gear. And what's been really nice about that is the only way that we share that we're doing it is through Twitter. And so literally we've had people find us and say, we knew you were coming, we saw it on Twitter. And so for us, from myself, I just love the digital strategy there that that people are actually paying attention to what we're saying. And secondly, it's just a way to acknowledge and recognize students for participating in this effort to increase our campus pride.
That's wonderful stuff. One of the things we do here at the University of Virginia is, talking about ways to involve students in terms of fostering school spirit and tying that connective thread from the alumni population back through the university is a group that we call student ambassadors. And these folks are, they effectively are the admissions representatives for various places in the world, the sort of the go-to contact as far as if there are questions about the University of Virginia. And this is a group of 200 students. They put on events, and it's a pretty cool program here at the University of Virginia that's put on by my colleagues in the regional engagement team. But thinking through a little bit more about making sure that students don't disappear after they graduate, right? They throw the cap in the air, they have got that piece of paper, and they don't have to stay connected anymore, right? They have to want to stay connected. What are some of the elements of your young alumni engagement strategy?
So one of the things that we started doing too, even before students graduated, is I'm pretty versed on LinkedIn, and one of the things I've been asked to do by many student groups is to present to them some key strategies in using LinkedIn. Well, I take advantage of those opportunities by also showcasing the fact that they're part of the largest network of the SUNY Cortland community, which is the alumni group. So if you start looking at the numbers of who's on LinkedIn, it's obvious that the greatest strength is in our graduate community there. So I teach them ways that they can stay in touch with the college, as well as connect with other alumni. And this has been something that's been transformative for us, because as a natural result, we're getting our students who are soon-to-be graduates who are not only connecting with us in the groups that we set up, but with us as individuals. And the neat thing about that is that we're no longer going to have that sort of loss of students who graduate and sort of disappear. We're keeping them connected in sort of this virtual world, which also ties nicely to our Red Dragon network, because you can allow your LinkedIn profile to be updated in that community, which is terrific, so they don't have the dual input. And that in itself has been tremendous. I think I did 6 presentations last fall for about 300 students in total, and that in itself has been very powerful for us in kind of using the LinkedIn tool to keep connected. A lot of what I'm hearing some of our younger graduates who show up for events and activities is that they've heard about it through LinkedIn, which is something that we're paying attention to make sure that we're sharing information about the things that we're doing in that space, because it seems to be a very powerful one for us in terms of getting our message out. The other piece I'd share is that we also launched a Young Alumni Council. So active student leaders we're inviting to participate in this council to help us prepare thoughts on best practices in communications, best practices in the types of activities that young graduates want to be involved in. And what we're finding is that we're not only getting people who are currently students who are sort of migrating into this group after they graduate, but we're starting to see some really terrific results, which when you start getting complaints of other alumni saying, how come we don't do what this group is doing, then you know you've done something right. And so seeing some of that success and having our young graduates be more plugged in to what we're doing, part and parcel because of the success of having this council, which has really informed the work, and we've got some great people on it who are, some of which were also in, incidentally, higher education in these sort of fields. So it does benefit to have a few folks who are in industry kind of guiding us and helping us along.
I'm sure it does, and I think that that's a great effort. I'm sure there's a lot of transition from between the Student Alumni Association and that group of young alumni who are helping out after they graduate. Michael, one of the things that I noticed when I was doing a little homework about you and the program that you have there was this really cool idea that's the 1,000,000 Points of Pride. This is not as so much a fundraising campaign as it is an engagement campaign. I'm not sure that I have seen anything quite like it. Could you talk a little bit about 1,000,000 Points of Pride, its impetus, and you know, how you guys are determining the parameters?
Absolutely. Well, we are in our quiet phase, so whatever I share with you, of course, is confidential.
No doubt. We'll keep it to
And across.
ourselves. Yeah.
But we're excited. What I've seen happen at a number of schools, obviously, is capital campaigns. There's sort of this process, right? You have a quiet phase to get leadership gifts and get people involved, and then you have an announcement that gets all of the rest of the alums involved in this campaign effort. Well, instead of making this focused on money, we decided to make this focused on our pride. Again, I spoke earlier about how prominent pride is at SUNY Cortland. So we wanted to showcase the fact that alums participate in the life of the college in many, many ways every single day. And so what we decided to do is associate points with that involvement, and so to aggregate at least 1 million points to showcase our campus pride. And so points will be awarded for folks who volunteer their time to showing up to an activity, participating in our reunion, staying at our alumni house, helping a current student find a job, providing a job opportunity to a current student, internships, signing up for our mentor program. There's lots of ways that alums give back every day, and so we just wanted to showcase the fact that that is actually happening. And so we will have, through the conclusion of our silent phases, to get all of our leadership involvement recognized and put them all in queue, and then a big announcement will be made at the end of the summer to involve all of our alums, and our hope in a year after that is to generate over 1 million points. You'll see on the page that we have a barometer, and it's our hope that we're going to have some fun with it too. You know, we've talked about Double Point Tuesdays and what that might mean, and a young alumni piece of it. So we're going to have a lot of fun with it, and it's exciting just to see our whole group and our volunteers come together on a project like this and really talk about the things that are meaningful. And it's been really, really exciting. We're so proud, and we're so thankful that you noticed it and wanted to chat about it.
I think it's a great idea. It's not something that I've seen done before. I'm sure you'll have plenty of challenges, but lots of rewards for putting forth the effort to determining, how it will work, and then, thinking about how to use your volunteers to get people engaged around the idea of Million Points of Pride. Can you talk a little bit about how the Young Alumni Council is sort of deployed to foster those ideas of alumni from day one, sort of helping to spread the message about why it's important to stay engaged?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that we're seeing happen, probably sort of naturally, but we're also kind of fostering it now, is that our young alums, not only the council, but our young alums, people who just graduated probably in the last 5 years, there's something really powerful about showcasing them because our students see them in their sort of at the same age. And one of the things that we're hearing from our students is the fact that seeing young alums be successful, whether they're coming back to campus to talk to students about their careers and the things that they've done, that has been really powerful. And our Young Alumni Council is helping us actually formally try to make that happen pretty consistently. One of the ways that we're doing that is we just launched in our newsletter that goes to our alums this month is a profile on a young graduate, so that we're showcasing the fact that this young alum is making it happen and doing some great things, and that profiling and that recognition is actually changing sort of the student experience as well, because they're seeing the fact that these young alums are successful. It's not the person that's been out 30, 40 years who's successful, but they're immediately upon graduation finding some great work or doing some great things in their profession, and that spotlight and recognition is huge, and our students really want to hear from our younger graduates. So I often hear from younger people all the time who said, I can't give a major gift to the college. Well, I'm not looking for a major gift. I'm looking for some of your time to help our students, because that's where the appetite is. Our students want to talk to somebody who's just fresh out of college or recently out of college, so they can talk about that transition experience and how they got there. So that in itself has really been powerful because it's self-fulfilling, right? So those folks who got the help now are becoming our helpers. And so that's what is sort of being sustained, and that's what we're sort of fostering now. And I think that's really catching on.
Yeah, and I think the pay it forward mentality as it relates to engagement initiatives, right? Taking a look at helping a student edit their LinkedIn profile or connecting them with another alumni. I think those are the sorts of things that, not just from a digital standpoint, but from a general standpoint, those are the types of engagement interactions that really prove the value of the alumni network and keep people engaged over the course of time. We talked a little bit about what it is that alums want, students as well, as far as engagement activities. Do they want to hear from the president of the university? Is the president of SUNY Cortland sort of involved in the Alum From Day One Red Dragon Network Million Source Points of Pride related activities?
The answer is a big yes. He's very involved. Eric Bitterbaum is wonderful. He doesn't miss an alumni event, and what's really neat about his experience is now he's been at the college for 11, 12 years, so everyone we consider in that young alumni family is actually someone he would have known during his time as president. So there's a real neat advantage of having him be part and parcel of the work of the Alumni Association and engendering support for the programs that we're doing. And he oftentimes is the person that thinks of the people that we should ask for X, Y, and Z as it comes up. So I think that that's really neat, and I think almost every college president out there can offer some of that because they've graduated the young alumni, right, through their time there, and that could be a wonderful pipeline, and in both directions, right, because he certainly wants to hear about how those young graduates are doing, and then also at the same time we want to know about what our young graduates can do to help support the college. So that's been an amazing experience, and terrific that he's had that tenure at the college because we've been able to mobilize those people that he's been in touch with. Certainly even from a leadership role as well. All of our student government presidents are highly engaged. We see the last 10 years worth of folks are coming to our activities. We actually have a reunion activity just for that group alone at our summer reunion. So there are a lot of great partnerships there with your college president, and I think the young alumni piece is huge because they've been invested in that already, and to sort of form a strategy that's going to pull some of that out is a really terrific thing to do.
And sort of thinking forward about perhaps actually a little recap on some of the points that you touched on with relates to social media strategy. You touched on a couple of elements in there that were great in terms of using Twitter to foster school spirit by way of asking students to wear their school pride and handing out candy. And could you, and of course connections through LinkedIn. Could you talk a little bit about some of the other sort of pillars of your social media strategy and what that looks like?
Yeah, I think there's some great practices out there that folks are doing, and I think one of the things that we all sort of fall short on is the fact that we can't do everything, right? So we've spent a lot of time as a team thinking about what do we have capacity for and what can we make consistent, because the surefire way to get unliked is to not be consistent and have a message. People are looking for you for your status update, right? And they're looking for the tweets. So my message to everyone is to make sure that whatever it is you're doing you have capacity for and can be consistent. So I'd recommend, and we just recently did this as a group, is to take inventory of what it is you're doing and then actually put together a plan. And there's some wonderful tools out there like Hootsuite and TweetDeck that can help you create some efficiency and all that. But it's our goal to make sure that we have a message every day, right? That we're informing this network. I see people who subscribe to social media as your super fans, right? So being super fans, you ask for them to help spread the word, but what's the benefit of being a super fan? Well, I think a super fan benefit is to make sure that you get information first, right? So before we send a newsletter out, we'll post a story or two from the newsletter in our networks because we want to give added value to people being subscribed to our networks by sharing the information before the e-newsletter hits. Or we'll take tweets and Facebook messages that people are putting out there that showcase wonderful pride and start incorporating them into official media of our organization, which is, one, a great thing to do to recognize people, and two, showcase some terrific content. So I think my advice would be to make sure you can't just do a big day where you're just doing some social media stuff. You really have to have a plan and be consistent, because the biggest letdown to folks is not having a message, and that's how you lose followers and sort of lose your ability to gather more in the future. And the other piece I would share too is that spend some time in building sort of those go-to people in the social spaces who are your best fans, your best advocates, who are turning out the message in droves. Those are the people that you want closest to you, and call them social media ambassadors, call them what you will as fans of the college, but those are the people who help champion your cause every day and engender that wonderful support, and it's hard to acquire new donors, new volunteers, and all these things that are happening in the social spaces are helping perpetuate that. And if you don't have a command of it and what's happening, then you're missing an opportunity to sort of pipeline folks into the fold. I sort of see everyone who likes something on Facebook as an alum who's raising their hand saying, call on me, right? I want to be involved in some way. And so that's the challenge, and I think with the growing need for social interactions, both in person and online, I think the more that you can help harness this, everyone really wins.
I think you're right. And it's one of the things we always like to do in some of your answers today have been absolutely fabulous in terms of offering some usable advice to folks trying to build an alumni life cycle program that really includes the student involvement all the way through graduation, even before the students arrive on the grounds or campus of the university, thinking about how to connect with them and showcase the value of the alumni network. If you were to offer a couple of final thoughts as far as what are the must-dos as it relates to developing this sort of a life cycle program, what are some of the alum from day one comments that you would say you really have to execute on these programs?
Well, I think the first thing you have to do is involve students, right? And I think what tends to happen is our knee-jerk is to involve students who are seniors, who are just about to graduate, because we're sort of like, oh, we got to welcome these folks and we got to capture all their information. There's so much logistically we need to do with that cohort. But I think it's important for us to remember that there's a good deal of time that students are on your campus in the different years and things that they're focused on. So I would say try to involve some folks who are first-year students on your way through to capture what's going to be most meaningful that your alumni association, your alumni office can provide, and then work your way to find the answers to some of that. I think that you might be hustling for something that students don't perceive as a need, and if you're doing that, you're going to spend a lot of energy for not. One of the things I did when I first started at Cortland was to speak with students, speak with our president, speak with faculty members, and kind of identify what is it that our students need that we can help service. And the need was in regards to speaking to graduates, but not in formal settings. They just wanted to be able to ask a quick question, and given alumni data and student data and the exchange of that with FERPA, you can't just give away contact information. So in creating sort of an online ability for alums and students to interact, that was one of the biggest takeaways that I think our students and our faculty wanted to see happen, and that's what we've been working on for the last year and a half. So I think it's important to make sure that you're actually developing a need for students. There's certainly, we want students to be involved in sharing our message, right? But that's our message, right? We want to make sure that you're also identifying what's in it for the students and what they're looking to see as a success. I think you have to start small. You're obviously not going to be able to resource every thought a student comes up with. I think you pick up the ones that make the most sense, and if you have an alumni board, I think that's where a lot of this conversation needs to start, because you need to make sure that you're resourcing it. And if you're adding to the pile, in most campuses we have to take something away, right? So this isn't just do more. If we're going to do this more and do it thoughtfully, you have to actually build capacity for it, because you can't just help one academic year, and then the next year students are going without because you couldn't resource it. So really determine what it is that you need from your students. Work with your board or your colleagues. Your college president should be involved, because they are seeing things that you're not seeing, and so they might be able to kind of help with those blind spots in terms of what they might be hearing from students or young alumni, and then build the volunteer group that you need to help sustain it, right? Because we can't certainly do all these things really well if it blows up, right? If it's ultimately really successful, you got to have more hands helping you out, and that's where the volunteers would be critical. And then evaluate each year, because generations change much more quickly these days, and so to keep up with the Joneses here, we're going to have to sort of look at that, not wait 10 years before we evaluate a young alumni program or any of our student success programs.
Yeah. Really great stuff. Michael Sgro, one of the industry's best out there, working at SUNY Cortland. Ladies and gentlemen, check out the SUNY Cortland alumni website. Check out some of the work that's happening up there. It is great. Alumni Trending, celebrating its 3rd year in existence. I believe there is a LinkedIn group, right, for Alumni Trending as well.
There is. That's right. Our most popular. Yep.
Are there opportunities to engage around alumni trending? Michael, thank you so much for joining me today. It was absolutely outstanding. You had great responses to some questions, and I really appreciate your time and energy.
Thank you, Ryan. Thanks.
Coming up next week, everybody, I will be returning to the host chair on the 27th of this month of January to have a talk about alumni engagement 2015, the state of alumni engagement 2015. Got a great guest lined up for the show, Jade Bressington from the University of Birmingham over in the UK, to give an international perspective about alumni relations. JT Forbes from the Indiana University Alumni Association, Jeff Shands from RPI, and Keith Liu from Brigham Young University will be on the show to talk about their vantage point, what they see as critical issues here in the realm of alumni engagement. So do tune back in this time next week on the 27th for that conversation. Thanks a lot, everybody, for tuning in. This is Ryan Catherwood signing off from the University of Virginia. Have a great rest of your Tuesday and rest of your week. Bye-bye.